Have you ever told your child, just do it because I told you so?
Welcome to Parenting Matters Now, a source of parenting advice a few minutes at a time.
And this is Dr. Roger Smith of Parenting Matters Now. We all have been in situations where our children have asked why, one too many times. And in our frustration, we may just say, because I told you to, or because I told you so. And is there a place for that? Is there a time that it is simply the right thing to do just to say, because I said so? Well, it depends. It depends on their age. And I want to remind you that during their development, there's a time whenever early in the years, this is a page out of my book that shows that early in their years, early in their life, there is lots of control, lots of obedience, and they learn normal activity, normal behavior, normal life skills through rules. And we use control. And during that time, where the control is near 100% or it's way up there in those early years, before they're having double-digit age, they are very responsive to because I said so. And they need to understand that you're not seeking to control them just because you have the power, but that it is the training process. And so the mindset in the early years is to say, is to have them follow your instruction because you're going to give them the right instruction. And they, in those years, learn through obedience. And there becomes a time whenever they develop the skills to begin to think and reason for themselves. But in the early years, it's really learned primarily through obedience, training through instruction. And so during those times, oftentimes we will resort to the question of why do they need to do something. And in that time period, the question really isn't why do I need to do this thing, but why do I have to do it? Because they're asking to get out of responsibility, to disobey the instruction. And in the early years, there's less of seeking to understand, but rather seeking to avoid. So in the early years, they are learning to obey you. And that's whenever it's okay to say, because I said so. And there will be a time when that changes. And we're going to talk about that in another clip. But be careful to not overuse the statement, because I said so. And sometimes, even in those early years, the child is really asking for understanding. And when you sense that there really is a genuine desire to understand rather than to avoid, supply understanding, give some reasoning, but know that in the early years, logic in the child's mind is very underdeveloped. They learn primarily through modeling, through rules, boundaries, and so in those early years where you have control, use that to your advantage, not in a power struggle, not in an oppressive way, not in a way where you are showing that you are the boss, but in a mindset of you're training your child and helping them to grow and to learn normal behaviors, how they interact with others, what do they say to a stranger, what do they say to the family members, how do they respond when they receive a gift. All those things are very much rules-based. And because I said so, that is part of the training process. And so give them good boundaries, good rules, instruction, and in those years, remember, they have childlike faith. They believe that you're right. And so to the degree that you are right, use that to your advantage and seek to train them with good thinking, good responding, good habits, and that will do them well. So in those early years, you can say, because I said so. This is Dr. Roger Smith with Parenting Matters Now.
Subscribe to Parenting Matters Now for more advice, or go to rogersmithmd.com to search for more topics. See you next time.